Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, it's uplifting to see these young Americans here today, these NASA interns, and I hope you young men and women are paying attention to these budget discussions. We are a nation that's $20 trillion in debt. And should this body ever manage to produce a surplus of, say, $1 billion, it would require 20,000 years of $1 billion surplus to address a $20 trillion debt. So I'm prayerful that NASA has a spirit of doing more with less, because not only are individual projects at risk, but certainly anyone can recognize that a $20 trillion debt puts the entire stability of all programs at risk in every government agency. I'm very hopeful that you young Americans are paying close attention to this conversation. Mr. Martin, I'm concerned about the culture of optimism that you referred to and the too big to fail attitude amongst project managers. But I understand their perception that their projects are too big to fail, because in every case, a tremendous amount of American treasure has been invested in that project. And therefore, it's quite logical for these project managers to have this cavalier attitude of too big to fail. What can this committee do? What can Congress do to ensure projects are developed and managed within their budget constraints, including, I'd like your thoughts, sir, regarding accountability for our contractors within these projects?
Again, I think more frequent conversations with members of Congress about the status of individual projects is important, more fidelity to the cost estimating that NASA does right now, and then the occasional example that projects, large or small, are going to be terminated if they go too far over cost and schedule. And in preparation for this hearing, I think the last project that I remember being canceled was something called GEMS. It was a telescope that was supposed to look for evidence of black holes, and it was a smaller program. From NASA speak, it was capped at $105 million. And then partway through formulation, they realized an independent cost assessment that it was going to be 20 or 30% over that $105 million cap. And NASA canceled it, and it got people's attention.
Generally speaking, the contractors that are involved in cost overruns for NASA projects, large projects, these are for-profit companies, are they not?
They are, sir.
And has that ever been addressed within the leadership at NASA, that, you know, most Americans, if we receive a bid from a professional contractor to perform a particular service, then we expect that service performed for the price that was bid, and they're held accountable legally by civil law, and there's a certain expectation of performance when you've given a bid. And yet within the federal government, and certainly within NASA's large projects, there seems to be an attitude of, well, we're not really accountable for the actual bid that we presented, and we won't be forced to perform.
He's NASA leadership.
Okay, so yeah, a lot of the time we're doing things, designing and building systems for the first time that no one else has ever built before. And so in those cases, we use a cost reimbursement contract. And the incentives, and we use incentives to hold the contract accountable through a performance evaluation plan. And those incentives are tied to fee, usually award fee, and that is their profit. So if they do not perform, and they should get a low score against the performance evaluation plan and either receive much less profit or no profit, depending on how we weight the incentives in the plan and how they're scored. So given the high-risk nature, the nature of what we do, very complex systems, very high risk with new technology, we take that approach, and then we hold them accountable, and the ultimate price to pay for them if they don't perform is complete loss of profit.
Gentlemen, thank you for your response. Mr. Chairman, my time has expired. If there's a second round, I have a question for Ms. Chaplain.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.